Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. Our guest on this edition is Chief Dean Smith of the Oshkosh Police Department. He's been here with us before, and we're very happy to have him back. During the next hour, we'll be covering a lot of different topics, and hopefully you'll find them interesting and enlightening, and so please just sit back and enjoy. So welcome, Chief. I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I was hoping that this would come off this time. We've tried a few different times, and there's been stuff either on my end or on your end, or I think once it was maybe on both of our ends, or maybe the weather didn't cooperate or something. But so I was very cautiously optimistic about tonight. So I'm glad it finally happened, and it's good to have you back. The first thing I want to talk about is Lando. He was a member of the canine team. He had to be put to rest or put down earlier this year because of an autoimmune disease. But I want to talk about his public service record, if you will, first, and then we can talk about, the illness and the wonderful memorial service that you guys held for him. So let's talk about his service record. This is pretty impressive. First of all, he was 2 years old when you guys got him.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he was a purebred German Shepherd. I think we've got a picture of him, and we'll show that in a little bit here. But he came from Albuquerque, New Mexico, correct?
Yes, yes.
Canine Services. I've never heard of that. Is that a place that trains canines?
Yeah, Canine Services has been training police canines for multiple years. Matter of fact, most of the canines that are in Fox Valley actually come from Canine Services in New Mexico.
Really?
The owner, Kevin, of Canine Services is nationwide known and highly respected in the police canine world.
Interesting. I've never heard of them, but that's not to say that I know everything in this world, because I certainly don't. And so he was born in 2016. You guys got him in March of 2018. And talk to us a little bit about what Lando did for the department. He was assigned to Officer Fettig and then Officer Martinez.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
So what did he do the same job with both officers?
Yeah. He's a dual purpose dog.
Mm-hmm.
He's both a patrol dog for doing searches and for keeping our officers safe, and also trained in narcotics detection. So he's a good tracker as well as a locator of drugs.
It's always so fascinating to me, and not just with German Shepherds, but any dog can be trained to sniff out drugs.
Yes.
And it's fascinating to me to see them being trained and to see how they actually work.
It's a game to them.
Yeah,
it truly is. It's just it's playtime. It's work time and playtime, and they know when it's time to play, work.
Yep.
And they know when to not play and work, based upon the training that they receive with their handler.
Yeah, and that's the rule of any kind of training, whether it's this type of dog or just one of our pets.
Yes.
You make a game out of it, and always give them positive reinforcement and rewards, and the training will work.
Yes.
If you just apply certain things. So he had a pretty impressive record. He had 1,437 and a quarter hours of training.
Yes.
So that's the training. Now, when they're within the department, are they still being trained?
Yeah, we actually do 16 hours of training every month.
Okay.
Formalized training every month with our canines. All of our police canines that are patrol canines go through the 16 hours of formalized training, and that's through a regional training group that we have with all the canines in the Fox Valley. Okay. So it could be tracking, it could be scent work, it could be training on locating certain narcotics, and it could just be simply obedience. Mm-hmm. It's really on what the handler feels like that their canine partner needs any given month.
Sure. So when we talk about this 1,437 and a quarter hours of training, does that also include the training out in New Mexico before he came here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's a combination of both. And what does it mean when it's 151 and a half certification hours?
Well, we not only do we send our canines, obviously get our canines from New Mexico and do our monthly training, we also carry a national certification through the National Association of Police Work Dog Association, NAPWADA. It's a recognized police canine certification. We really wanted to go do NAPWADA training and certifications just to validate the work that our dogs do. Mm-hmm. We have a responsibility to the community to make sure our dogs are doing work well and doing it correctly.
Sure.
And so I'm a firm believer in certification. I'm a firm believer in testing our dogs. So every year our dogs have to be recertified through NAPWADA to ensure that they're being effective for the community.
Mm-hmm. NAPWADA.
Yes.
NAPWADA. Okay. And so then 283 deployments. What do you guys consider a deployment?
Well, if it could be anything from a search of a vehicle because there's probable cause and maybe narcotics in it. It could be search of a house, a residence, a business, or it could be searching for a fleeing suspect. Yeah, we work in conjunction with our neighboring agencies, whether it be Winnebago County Sheriff's Office or NENA or Menasha. If they need a canine and they don't happen to have one working, our canines would go and assist them. So we would deploy throughout the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when we say 283 deployments, we're talking within Oshkosh, within Winnebago County, or could be elsewhere.
It could be, but primarily within Winnebago County. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so let's talk about his seizure numbers because to me, they look impressive.
Oh yes. He was very successful at locating narcotics, and even without locating narcotics, the fact that he didn't locate them would indicate that that he's not just alerting because he's working.
Right.
Which to me, I look at a non-alert as just as positive as an alert.
Sure.
Because that tells me that nope, there's no drugs in the car. Mm-hmm. Nope, there's no narcotics.
So he's
there's
doing
no
his job
he's
like
doing his
any
job.
officer should.
Yeah. There. In some worlds, some people may believe that the police just use a canine to get into a vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that he may not hit on a vehicle tells me that there were no narcotics in the vehicle. So have a good day.
Yeah.
But yeah, his seizure numbers were incredible. Were incredible for the work that he did.
I just you brought up something, and I saw this on TV. Ironically enough, just last night, it was on an episode of The Good Wife, and which I love that show, and I know it's no longer being made, but it was a great show, and it's in reruns or syndication, I guess. And they showed, of course, this was in Illinois, and it's TV, of course.
Yes.
But they showed this canine, and the dog was hitting on a car based on how the officer was using his words, like, get it, boy, come on, get it, things like that. Is that something that's just made up for TV?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's not a part of the training.
Okay.
Certainly they'll be talking to the dog, encouraging him to find it if it's there.
Yeah.
But the dog is trained to alert on scents, on whatever narcotics that they're trained on. Mm-hmm. There's certain canines out there that are bomb dogs,
Sure.
And their only job is to locate explosives, gunpowder, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're not going to alert on narcotics.
Yeah.
Our dogs are trained on certain narcotics in order to locate those through their activities.
Yeah, and that's fascinating to me. So, I'm looking for some of the biggest things that Lando found, and it looks like methamphetamine, and it's not broken down, it's just meth.
Right.
102.5 grams of meth. And I'm sure you guys know what kind of meth that was, if it's a certain kind or something different, or
we don't really categorize meth in any certain way. Really, for us, and we'll probably talk about it later on. Some of the prevailing issues we have within the community, but our concern with any narcotic right now is really overdose deaths.
And I've got that on my list also.
Yes,
Yep.
so many folks that may be involved in using narcotics take for granted that it's just going to be like it was last time. And unfortunately, with the introduction of fentanyl and carfentanil, it could be the last time. So we want to make sure that that we're doing all we can to stop the drug trade here in the illegal drug trade here in the community.
Absolutely. And so when we talk about 102.5 grams of meth, that is a lot, it sounds like to me. What kind of a street value would you put on something like that?
I don't have an accurate number on that.
Right.
And it's, I can tell you that last year we recovered close to $750,000 worth of methamphetamine.
Wow.
Just before July of last year through our drug unit. So it was pretty significant work that they were doing last year. And a lot of that came from one operation, but that was here in the city of Oshkosh. So that says a lot about what's going on.
And when you say a year, that was just
That
like
was
those
actually
6
just,
months?
That was 6 months in. Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
wow. That's pretty significant. And I want to talk later about how things have changed since you've been here, because you've been here now about 7.5 years, I think.
Yep.
But, you know, when you compare 750,000 in a six and a half month period of time to even a year or two prior to that, what kind of a significant increase is that?
It's very significant. But, you know, it also, it's not to say that the increase has just occurred. We're focusing in now on, and we've been trying to focus in on stopping narcotics dealing, going after our drug dealers in our communities, because it's so prevalent right now, and we're losing people. And you know, we've had the largest amount of overdose fatalities over the last 3 years that we've seen ever here in our community, and we have to do something to stop that. And I will tell you that if our police officers and firefighters were not equipped with Narcan, naloxone, we'd have a lot more fatalities, because we've been able to save people through actually administering Narcan to them.
Yeah, and there's something about Narcan that I think people take for granted, and or maybe they just don't know. But you know, if you're a heavy user and you tend to OD a lot, Narcan, after a while, it's like anything. You sort of become almost immune to it, if you will. And at some point, it's just not necessarily going to save you. And, you know, I don't think that people realize that.
Well, I don't know if they don't realize that as much as they don't care. Because remember, they're in a part of an addiction.
Yeah.
And addiction is a terrible thing to have going on. And you just expect that you're going to be okay this time, just like you were last time. But remember, this could be your last time because of using illegal narcotics. That, again, with fentanyl and carfentanil, you just don't know. I mean, we're seeing fentanyl being laced in marijuana now. We're seeing fentanyl pills coming into our community that they're counterfeit pills. You know, they're buying them off the black market, and they think that they're Adderall, and they're actually fentanyl pills. And that certainly has the ability to kill you quickly.
Yeah, I'm just making a note here. That reminds me of another question I want to talk to you about. So we've got, I'll just kind of go through this, 62.9 grams of cocaine, the meth that we talked about, 102.5 grams, 9.38 pounds of marijuana, 3.40 grams of fentanyl. What is MDMA?
That's a manufactured psychedelic drug.
Oh, okay. Does it have a name, or is this?
That's the name for it, MDMA.
Okay.
That's
Is it
an
an acronym for
abbreviation.
something?
That's abbreviation of its big long chemical components.
Which we wouldn't understand anyway.
Exactly.
You guys would, but so 8.71 grams of that. Heroin, 13.3 grams. Drug paraphernalia, 131 pieces. Now these are all, keep in mind, what Lando.
Yes, only Lando's
Yes,
work.
only his. It's not the entire department.
No, we have far more than that throughout the department.
Illegally possessed prescription drugs.
Yes, yep.
Just not prescribed for them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
210
Now, Schedule 2,
pills.
Schedule 3 narcotics, if it's not yours, you can't have it. It's going to be illegal for you to possess that.
Okay. 3 firearms, 3 guns. One apprehension with bite apprehension. Currently seized, this would be cash, I'm assuming.
Yes.
$25,974. And then THC oil, wax, or edibles. 214.08 grams of that. Talk to us a little about that. And again, I want to emphasize this is just what Lando seized or recovered. What is THC oil or wax or edibles? We know what the edibles are.
Yeah,
it's gummy bears or cookies or whatever.
And yeah, brownies, all those things. But with the oils and waxes, the oils, they use them in cartridges and such, and wax, the same deal. It's just how they package it, the THC extracted from the marijuana.
Interesting. So this is pretty significant, and so I don't know. Can we show some photos of Lando maybe? Doing some work. There he is. Now, was that taken shortly after you guys got him, or?
I don't know the time that it was taken, but looking at the kind of grayness there, I got to believe he's probably with us for a little bit.
Okay, all right. And there he is with his police vest on. Striking dog, very, very striking.
Beautiful, beautiful dog.
Yeah, for sure. There's a close-up of him. Look at him. German Shepherds, they have those ears that they're so big and they stand up, but boy, they make the dog. I love that shot right there. Yeah. That's a beautiful shot of him. He must be looking at one of his handlers, I would assume there. Yes. Yep. And who is this handler? Is this Officer Martinez?
This is Roberto Martinez, yes.
Okay, all right. And Officer Martinez was his handler from 2020 until his passing.
Yes.
And Officer Fettig was from 2018 when you first got him until 2020.
Yes.
So why the different? Do you know offhand who that officer is right there? Whoop! Can we go back to that picture for a moment? There we go.
That's going to be Martinez.
That is okay. Yes. So both are Officer Martinez. Okay, thanks, guys. So why the change in handlers? Was there a reason?
Well, Officer Fettig decided to do something different in his career. He wanted to change shifts and such, and we needed to make sure we keep dogs on the shifts as they need be. And at that point, he decided he wanted to change shifts, so we redeployed Lando with Officer Martinez, sent him off to training so that him and Lando could become partners together.
Yeah. How long does it typically take? And I know every dog and every partnering is going to be a little different, but just as a general rule, how long does it take a dog like Lando to learn how to work with a new handler?
Well, it's different between dogs. The temperaments, their level of training, their pre-training that they had, the obedience training and the work. It's really the training isn't necessarily specific training for Lando, it's training for the handler.
Yeah.
And how you actually work with a particular dog. What are the commands? How do you read the dog's actions? How do you actually maintain the relationship with the dog, and the dog trusting you and you starting to trust the dog.
Yeah.
So really the training is with the handler, not with the dog, because the dog's already trained if you move from one hand to the next. As a matter of fact, with many of our canines, I can take, if I have a trained handler, any one of our canines could work with that handler.
Okay.
The dogs know what they're doing, and the handlers just have to, they got to kind of hang around with the dog and figure them out. But the dogs know what they're doing.
Okay. And they're all trained. They're all trained the same way, and you guys, for consistency purposes and to make it simpler for the dog as well, and more effective, you use the same commands, the same everything.
Yes.
So that, I'm assuming, is why the dog could switch from one handler to another.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So, well, let's talk about Lando, because he developed an autoimmune disease. And what happened? How did you guys first discover that there was a problem? And did you have him seen by a local vet? And then, because I know you you guys went out of your way, which was great, to thank the UW veterinary care staff who assisted with him. Was that right away, or was that toward the end? Or?
Well, that was actually generally right away, because we have a very good relationship with UW vets and with all of our dogs that may have health issues, because we're understanding when you are working with a police canine, it's a living being.
Yes.
I've got dogs that I've never believed that I would be doing dental work for them. I've got dogs that I replaced teeth, and so you always have to maintain their care. So we're feeding them, we're giving them vet visits, and the handlers know their dogs, so they're spending quality time. And when the dog's demeanor changes, maybe their food intake has changed, maybe something's going on differently, they're very, very in tune with what's happening with the dog. So early on, Officer Martinez was noticing some change with Lando and took him to the vet, and we were treating the illness as best as we could, hoping that he would recover. And
did they know right away what it was?
I think it took a little bit of time to figure it out. Then they ran some tests, and then ultimately figured out what it was. And we really hoped that we could treat it along the way. And towards the end of Lando's time here, we said, okay, you don't need to work. Let's just get healthy. Let's see if we can get him healthy, and see if we can improve his quality of life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long did that? When did Officer Martinez first realize that there was something going on with Lando?
Well, I got to believe it was probably 6 months prior to.
Okay.
That we had been trying to work through it.
So probably late last year then.
Yeah, late last year, beginning of this year or
Okay.
so. Yeah.
All right. And then it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, correct.
And he had to be put to rest or put down, humanely euthanized, I guess is one of the best ways of saying it, probably.
Yep.
And that was in late May?
Late May, early June.
Okay.
Early June.
And then this was something that you guys did that I thought was, I get choked up talking about it.
It's okay.
It is.
I got kind of choked up when I was talking about it too during the event.
Yeah. I actually had occasion the day before the service. Someone hit me, and fortunately I wasn't hurt. They weren't hurt. There was no real damage done to my car, but just for safety reasons, I called an officer out, and just because it was hard to see at that time of day, the sun was bouncing off the car and so forth, and I couldn't really tell. So I wanted it documented, and the officer who came out, I started bawling, just talking to him about it, and that was the day before the event. And then, of course, since then, I've lost the second dog of mine to this year, one just a couple weeks ago, and so
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Thank you. So it's difficult for me to talk about this from a police dog standpoint, but also just in general loving dogs the way we do.
Well, and I got to tell you a story, because police people perceive police canines as just these like these growly dogs and everything, and when they're not working, they're family pets.
Yeah.
Officer Martinez's wife and kids, they were just devastated by the loss of Lando, because Lando was their household pet, because the canines live with their handlers, they live with their families, and so the stories that I heard from his wife and from his family, his kids, it just warmed my heart to hear that relationship that they had, and they were just so devastated having to lose Lando, and it's such a strong family, and it really touched me to talk to them about Lando.
Sure.
Because you don't really understand or really know that occurs until you really are in deep with them and understanding what's going on.
Absolutely. But I thought that this was a very wonderful thing that you and the department did, and that was to have a public memorial service for Lando, and it was held at the Leach Amphitheater on June 9th, and I can't thank you guys enough for doing that, because I think it's important for people. Well,
I appreciate that, and I will tell you that I searched across the state to see if this is unique. Not many police canines pass while they're working.
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of examples out there, and I had to do some heavy searching and then make decisions. What are we going to do? And then balancing it out with, I have to respect the relationship that Officer Martinez and his family had with Lando, the relationship that Lando had with our community, and also the relationship that Martinez and Lando as a team had with other canine handlers across the valley. And then recognizing that Lando was a part of our police family. He's considered one of our officers. And so what do you do? Yeah. And so we kind of figured it out as we went, just to honor Lando and the work that he did, and to help Martinez and his family.
Well, it was wonderful. And like I said, I can't thank you enough for doing it. And if people did not get to attend the public service, you can go online. You would go to the Oshkosh Media Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and type in Oshkosh Media, do a search. And you look under the miscellaneous events playlist. And that's where you can watch the service. And even if you were able to attend it and you'd like to watch it again, go to Oshkosh Media's Facebook page under miscellaneous events playlist. So did you guys have like a little brainstorming session to figure out what to do here and how to do it? Or
oh yeah, bringing smart people together and just okay, what does this look like? And then doing some searches online as to what some standards are, maybe in other areas across the country. Truly, we weren't prepared for this at the time because we didn't anticipate this occurring.
Right.
But then doing some searches to what the National Sheriff's Association had a protocol for different times where police canines may die in the line of duty, whether it be dying by violence, which happens, whether it be dying through illness while they're working, or as they pass after they retire. What are different options for sheriffs or chiefs to look at? So I leaned heavy into that and trying to develop what the service could look like, and then working hard with our honor guard and services that we've participated in elsewhere, trying to honor the legacy of Lando, but also recognizing that police officers, human police officers, we want to be mindful of that as well.
Sure. Well, we've got some really lovely photos, and I want to thank Kate Mann, your PR person,
yes,
for getting us all these photos today. So there's a stuffed animal of Lando, which I wanted to purchase one, and she said we're all sold out.
We are.
Did you sell out at the service or
no,
prior to?
we had sold out prior to. Okay. I think there may be a couple laying around, or some people had them in their offices. But they're gone.
Beautiful, beautiful, and there he is in front of your mobile command unit.
C-Cub, yes.
I guess that's a photo set up next to the wreath.
Yes.
So there's a member of the honor guard. Now, did the honor guard? This is the OPD's honor guard,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay. How many people make up an honor guard?
We have, I want to say, 12 officers that are a part of the honor guard.
Okay. And there's just some more shots of Lando, and here we have this Oshkosh Police Canine Care, spelt with a K. This is something that you guys just recently came up with?
No, we've been having donation box available at Carmel Crisp, and if people wanted to donate to our canine fund, which helps us with equipment, helps us with the dog food and training, and
it's not cheap.
It is not. And by the way, thank you. You, in fact, have made a donation to our canine fund.
Thank you. That is probably one of 3 or 4 I've made over the years, but I wanted to make one specifically after Lando's passing.
Thank you.
I've been a law enforcement family for many years, and so I appreciate the hard work that you guys do, but then as an animal lover and an animal advocate and someone who volunteers a lot with animal groups, it just all was important to me, so I wanted to do that for you guys. But so how many people do you think attended the service? Do you know offhand, or it's fine if you don't?
It's probably 50-ish, 50 people.
Which I think, considering it was a weekday, a work day, just the beginning of summer, for some folks. I think that was a good turnout.
I believe so. Yes. And we had all the canine teams from Fox Valley came in, and we did a procession with them, and for decorum purposes, when we went to pick up Lando's remains, we did a police procession with the canine handlers on the valley to the Leach Amphitheater, and they were able to bring their dogs, and this really choked me up. They brought their dogs and had a ceremonial passing of Lando's memorial with their canines. And
was that part of the videotape?
That was part of the videotape,
okay, so
I believe.
people can see that.
But it kind of caught me. I was like, oh, yeah, because you think about the handler and their dogs. I mean, those are best friends.
Yeah,
they spend so much time together.
They're partners, like
they really
any
are.
human partnership.
Yeah, I mean, I've got. You may know Odin. Do you know Odin? He's one of my other police canines.
I think I've met him once.
Odin has an incredible following on Instagram. Hundreds of thousands of people follow or have viewed Odin. Odin's a little character. So,
how so?
Well, him and his handler, they have a very, very good time working. There's certain videos that have gone viral with Odin, just because he's kind of a ham. And him and his handler, they have a good old time together.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's great. I'll have to check that out on Instagram. Just Instagram, not a Facebook page or anything, right?
Yes.
Okay, just Instagram. All right. I mean, I pulled this from a local publication. This was in the Oshkosh Herald, actually, about you guys looking at future canine options. Now, is this something that just kind of came about because of what happened to Lando, or was this something that was kind of in the works before?
We want to replace Lando. We think it's important, so we want to just make sure that that we make the right choice for the community, respectful of donations that we receive, and make a good choice. So we're just exploring our other options here to get a replacement for Lando.
Sure. And like I said, I don't think that people really understand just how expensive canines are. Initial estimated costs of up to $25,000 just to bring on a police dog, and that includes the animal handler and initial training, basic equipment, but it doesn't include any of the equipment that you have to put in the car.
No, it doesn't include the car. Each dog has their own car.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a kennel.
Not one they drive.
A dog's not going to share their kennel very well, so
right.
And the handlers have their vehicles to because they need it, and there's special equipment inside each of our canine vehicles. We'll have it's a hot box, hot release. If it gets too warm in there, the doors will open up automatically.
Oh, that's good.
It's got fans inside.
But then where does the dog go? Does he just run out?
The doors will open, and the handler will know what's going on because the handler gets a triggering mechanism.
Okay.
And he can go. The dog's like, "Hey, the door's open," and he's kind of like, "Okay, what do I do next?" And he's looking for his partner.
Well, it's interesting as we talk about that. So let me just finish this. So I think it's important that we donate to this cause, and there may be some grant money available. I don't know. I'm sure that there is, but they could use every dime or dollar that you would care to donate. So,
well, I think it's important that even reminding it, the initial purchase is that, but there's ongoing expenses associated
ongoing
with
training,
vet bills, training, food, just getting their hair done, cutting their nails. All when you think about your dog, we do that. We do all that and then some for all of our canines.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, I've bought dentures for dogs, replacing teeth because they do bite training.
Absolutely, and people may think, well, that's ridiculous, but when you have this kind of money put into an officer, because that is what they are, when you have this kind of money put into purchasing and training an officer, you don't want to just say, well, got some bad teeth here, and we'll just, retire the dog from the police department.
Don't want to do that.
So
it's not doing a good service to
that's right,
and the community and to the
and it's
the
not
team.
Spending our tax dollars very wisely
Correct.
to just do that. It's
Correct.
kind of just flushing them down the toilet.
Right.
So you want to maintain, a dog for as long as you can from a health standpoint, and that includes dental work that may need to be done. So if you want to make a donation, please do so. It would be Oshkosh Police Department, Canine Care with a K. I didn't know about the canine care until I read this article. By that time, the check was already made out. So I had to squeeze it in there a little bit, but it'll do the job. And you can either mail that to OPD or you can just drop it off. Or can they make donations online through your website?
They cannot,
Okay.
but we do have a fund through the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation.
Oh, okay.
They can donate through there as well.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So, okay, so what do you think, before we wrap things up with Lando, what do you think his legacy will be?
Oh, just that he was a good partner and that he did a good job. He was a good boy.
Okay. And where is he now? Where are his cremains? Are they
They
at
are
the
with Officer
department?
Martinez
Okay, and his family.
and his family, yes. Yes.
That's good. That's very good.
Not only were they a team, but he was a family
He was
pet
their
to
pet.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
And what we do and we've done with our canines when they're done giving service to the community, essentially the handlers will, if they choose to, will let them have the dogs and let the dog just be a good pet.
Sure.
And hang out at the house and eat a lot of dog food and
be a dog.
and be a dog and just play
Yeah.
and just run through the yards.
Well, I think that's wonderful. Is there? I haven't been down to the police department in a while. Is there a picture of Lando or something down there?
There is not. There
okay.
is not.
Are there plans for that?
Well, that's a good idea. I hadn't actually considered that.
You know, maybe a little commemorative plaque or
That's
something.
a good idea.
See, I'm always thinking.
Yes, thank you.
You guys have a facility dog also, and not a whole lot of people have facility dogs, so I commend you guys for this also. And Magic was 2 years old when she joined the force last year. She's now 3, an absolutely beautiful golden retriever. And her handler, Scott Zapata?
Yes.
Okay. So Scott and Magic, we did an actual show, an entire long show with Magic and Scott. And you can see that on the Eye on Oshkosh channel on YouTube. Just type in OPD Magic or whatever, and it'll come up. But she provides a real service, not just to people within the police department facility building, because she is a facility dog, but she also works with people in the community and provides a definite service there. Can you tell us just briefly what she does and how she helps out?
Well, that's truly the primary reason why we brought Magic into the police department. Scott Zapata is our behavioral health officer, and probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now, we began a alternative call response team, basically, where if somebody's in crisis, we send initially we'll probably have a patrol officer show up there who will use their CIT training, their crisis intervention training, to try to de-escalate the situation. But Officer Zapata and now our social worker that is a part of our team, along with Magic, will respond and work with that person who's in crisis, because we want to reduce that tension that's in that moment. When folks get into crisis, that's when bad stuff happens, and we want to avoid that at all costs. And so Magic does a great job of really just becoming the focus of a person who's in crisis, and maybe change their mindset a little bit from potentially wanting to harm themselves, or just feeling destitute and just not feeling good about themselves. And now we can bring Magic into the scene, and Magic gets a lot of hugs, gets a lot of pets, gets a lot of kisses.
I bet.
But at the end of the day, we're able to provide that person with some help that they need, for mental health resources along the way, or just they're having a really bad day and they just need a break to not be in that moment that they're in.
Yeah, I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that Magic provided a real service in the building after all this happened with Lando.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So.
It's oftentimes Magic and Officer Zapata and Kayla, our social worker, their office is right down the hall from mine. And I'll tell you that there's days I go wander up there and I go and spend some time petting Magic and just having having a moment of one-on-one time.
People who don't understand the role that animals play in our lives can't even begin to appreciate that. But
No.
just petting a dog can and it's proven it can lower your blood pressure.
Yes.
Reading to a dog can help kids overcome their shyness or fear of reading. Dogs and other pets too, but we're talking about dogs right now. They can do amazing things.
Well, and speak a little bit more about Magic and the work that Magic does. We've had kids who wanted to have nothing to do with getting help, and when we bring Magic into the scene, all of a sudden we're able to communicate better with that child, and they start to open up a little bit to us, and because they get to pet or hug on Magic.
Yeah.
It's an incredible icebreaker. And then we're able to use our tools we have available to us with Officer Zapata and with our social worker to get folks connected into services that they wouldn't normally think were available to them. It breaks the ice. It takes the sting away from having needing help.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's before our time completely runs out here. I want to talk about what are some of the current crimes that Oshkosh is seeing the majority of these days.
Well, I'll tell you, we've from 2021 to 2022, we've had a 22% increase in our calls for service, and that's impactful because we only have a finite amount of police officers, but we're answering over 60,000 calls for service a year. And that's a lot of work for our police officers to have to manage. And many of those calls are not just a one officer call. There'll be a critical call or just a needed assistance. So if we have a traffic crash, you had a traffic crash. If it's a serious crash, you may have 2 or 3 other officers respond as well to help move traffic around that particular scene.
And we've all seen those.
And then you have the officer who's trying to investigate the accident. Mm-hmm. Or we have an OWI, and it takes a couple officers to handle those. If you have a critical call like a domestic, it's going to be at least 2 officers showing up. If we have a burglary alarm, if we have a robbery, if we have an assault, we're having multiple officers arriving on scene. And then we have the detectives doing the follow-up. So although we have 60,000 or so calls for service, you could probably put a 25% multiplier on top of that on the needs of service for the police officers.
Now, when you say calls for service, Chief, are those strictly calls coming into the non-emergency or emergency line, or are those calls where someone is requesting an officer to come out?
It could be any one of those things.
Okay.
It's also traffic stops.
Okay.
It's
all right.
It's also our work in our team policing. As you know, we really want to make sure that we take care of things early when they're small, so
Yes.
they don't get big.
Know us before you need us.
Know us before you need us. Our police officers are charged with working closely in the community to make sure that the community members who have a small issue, we try to mediate those early on so that they don't blow up into something far worse than they currently are.
Sure. So when we talk about these calls for service or just phone calls that are coming in, what kind of things are you hearing from people? What kinds of crime are we seeing the most of? Obviously, drugs is a big one.
Yeah, we're facing a lot of complaints right now regarding homelessness within the city of Oshkosh. It's just not just the city of Oshkosh that is seeing an increase in homelessness. I think if you look across the country, you're seeing it in many communities. And we have a lot of resources available for our homeless population here, varying from our day-by-day warming shelter to the new tiny homes village, to the county's drop-in center, Father Cars, Salvation Army.
Yeah, and it's never enough. I don't care what community you're in, you do things, and it's never enough.
Yeah, and I really think we have to work hard on getting people out of homelessness and getting them transitioned from the desolation that they feel day in and day out. That I'm on a cycle where I might get a check once a month, or I don't get anything at all, but once that's gone, it's gone, and now I put a roof over my head, put food in my mouth,
and so many people are maybe 1 or 2 paychecks away from becoming homeless.
Sure.
I don't think that people that a lot of people really truly understand. You know, people can easily fall into homelessness,
Yeah.
and it can just be that they lost their job and they're having trouble finding work that supports their lifestyle. And somebody says, well, you know, look, they're driving this car and they got this big 80-inch screen, flat screen TV, whatever. They didn't budget their money properly. Well, when they bought those things, they were able to afford those things. But if something happens and you fall into being one or two paychecks away from homelessness, that's a problem.
Well, yeah, and just last year we had officers that were really creative in trying to solve the homeless issue. For, you know, you got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. We had a group of homeless gentlemen that were staying over Michigan Street on the kayak launch area, and they actually were working, but they didn't have a roof over their head. They just couldn't get over the top to get there.
This is a great story.
So we were able to. The officers were talking with them, and they just needed a little extra help. Yep. And we were able to use some donated funds that we had to help them get into an apartment and kind of work with the landlord to say, okay, they're having an issue, but you know we've done some checking. They're going to be okay. We're going to give them a little leg up, and can you help them out? And we were able to get them into an apartment to get them off the street, which I think is huge, and it's one step at a time.
Yeah, it absolutely is. That when I first heard about that story, I thought, what a great thing. You know, law enforcement work has become so dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's always been dangerous, but I think it's become even more so in recent years. Yeah. And I don't think that people really, truly understand or appreciate the job you guys do.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service with that. Besides homelessness and drugs, what are some of the other, are we still seeing a lot of domestic?
Oh yeah, we still see a lot of disturbances occurring in our community. It's just it's the nature of society as it is. I mean, people have disagreements and they grow and they build and they become disturbances and they become fights and so forth. So we have disturbances. Our OWIs are on the rise. More and more drunk drivers that we're finding. Our drug offenses are actually up 19% this year.
Wow.
So that's that's part of it because we're working hard to stop the drug dealing in our community. Mm-hmm. So we're actively looking for these. But the fact of the matter is that the drug dealing is going on in our community, and our drug offenses are up 19%. Our weapon offenses are up 17%. So that's alarming to us. A weapon offense could be a gun offense, a knife, or any type of object to hurt somebody. So
you said they're up 17%?
17%, yes.
Okay. What about concealed carry? Now, you know, we've had this for a number of years already in the state of Wisconsin. How has that really turned out to be? Is that where some of these problems are coming from?
No, it's really a non-issue.
Okay.
Concealed carry is a non-issue.
Okay.
Most of the people that we're finding in weapons violations, they don't have a permit. Those who do have a permit are legally carrying their firearm. And
well, that is good to know.
Yeah.
That's really quite good to know.
Yeah, I'm also concerned with financial crimes. One of the emerging issues that we're finding right now is you know, the cash apps, Venmo and Apple Pay and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult for law enforcement to actually track that. I mean, there's people out there that don't want us to be able to track anything, but you know, we for the longest time have been able to look at bank records, and you know, if you have thousands of dollars available to you in the bank and yet you have no source of job to actually support that may tell us that something's wrong going on there. Well, with the cash apps right now, we have no way to track it, no way to follow it, and we want to make sure that we're being mindful of those things. And then the crimes that are occurring in the world of white collar crime with fraud and senior citizens that are being victimized. Yeah. We're seeing a rise in those, and we want to be addressing that. And the most terrible thing in the world is you find a senior who loses their life savings because they were taken advantage of by somebody. And even not senior citizens, but businesses, we're finding. Even the city has had people try to run a scam on the city, and we were fortunate enough that we had some checks and balances in place. But we've had businesses that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars
Through like ransomware?
No,
or
change account numbers,
okay.
and hey, I'm the vendor so and so, and if you can just change our account number, reroute the money here, and somebody makes a mistake, and
they
there you
don't
go.
run the appropriate checks,
Yes,
and
yes,
they allow it to
yes.
happen.
And that's very difficult right now to police, but we have to do a better job of doing that, because
Yeah.
that's expensive.
Absolutely. Does the department ever hold like a community-wide seminar, I'll call it for lack of a better word, where people can come and hear about some of the latest scams and how to protect themselves and this kind of thing?
Well, Winnebago County Sheriff's Office is they're now starting to partner with us, and they started a training for that, and we're working with them now to bring that into the city, and we're going to use some of our investigators with them to educate our community members.
Sure.
You know, the sad part about it with seniors, when they get taken advantage of, a lot of times they don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to feel embarrassed. They don't want the kids to know that they lost tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's just embarrassing to them. And we have to take the cloak away from that and bring it to light so we can solve these things.
Sure, absolutely. And internet crimes also. You know, there's still probably a lot of internet crime going on.
Yes, yes.
And that probably ties in with some of this other
Yeah.
stuff that we've been talking about too.
Yeah. But I mean, there's some upside to it. I mean, we report out our crime data to the FBI, and as a whole, our Group A offenses, which we consider our most serious offenses, person offenses, they're down 4.8%. Our property offenses are down 11.8%. You know, our Group B offenses, which are like bad checks, the white collar stuff, disturbances, DUIs, drunkenness, and many other offenses, they're up 22%. So those are the societal crimes that really make up a good, solid community, and so we're seeing a rise in those as well. But I'm encouraged by the fact that the crimes against persons are down. You know, we're seeing like our burglaries are down 19% year to year.
Wow.
So and that's a lot of work in solving crimes and getting those who would commit those crimes off the street. As we've mentioned before, we try to take care of small things early, and if we see a spree of burglaries going on, we're going to concentrate our efforts on trying to solve who's doing all those multiple burglaries, because it's really a cancer on our community.
Absolutely. One thing that I noticed, and maybe it was just me, but several years ago, there were some email newsletters that were started for each district in the community, and you could sign up for just your own district that you live in, or you could sign up for all of them or just some of them, whatever you wanted to do. And for some reason I wasn't getting those for a while. I got them for the longest time, then I wasn't getting them, and I thought, well, geez, what happened to those? And now I see that I'm starting to get them again. And I think that's really a great service, because people can see what's happening in their specific area where they live.
Right.
And, you know, I think if you have good information, and what better coming from the department who's handling these things.
Right. Accurate, factual information,
yeah,
yes.
Something that's not fake news. I hate even using those words, but, you know, I think if you can arm yourself with education of factual information, you can better protect yourselves.
Agreed.
What about like neighborhood watch programs? Are those still pretty popular, or not so much anymore?
Not so much. You know, the city has their neighborhood associations, and they want to continue to grow those, because that brings a certain fellowship together when you know your neighbors. Know us before you need us. Know your neighbors also.
Yeah.
I think it brings a closeness to your community.
Sure.
So we're really emphasizing the neighborhood associations and having people take pride in their particular neighborhoods.
Okay. Current diversity within the department. You know, we've been hearing a lot lately about the fire department and a grant that they got for helping to promote diversity in hiring and what have you. What is the current diversity makeup of OPD?
Well, currently 9% of our staff are minorities,
Okay.
and then 16% of those are females. So we're doing well. We always can be better, but the difficult task that we have is finding qualified candidates. the candidate pool for law enforcement officers and for employees of the police department are, we're all competing for the same people, and
Yep.
we're not having as many folks wanting to get into the profession as once wanted to.
I was going to ask you about that because it is so dangerous, and I
Yeah.
would think that is, the people who remain in, on the job, on the force, whether it's sheriff's department or police department, they're suffering from low morale at times. I personally know of some who have taken early retirement just because it was just too stressful and morale was too awful and they were overworked and what have you. Those things factor in, I'm sure, with your ability to recruit people, don't
Yeah,
they?
they really do. And so we try to do a lot of retention work as well as the recruiting work. A few years back, we developed a mental health resiliency committee within the police department. So throughout the year, we're doing different functions to build into our police officers to give them some assistance along the way. We actually have a social worker or a counselor that is available to our officers that does hours in the police department every month.
Oh, that's
And
great.
it's a confidential interaction where they can see our counselor and just talk about life stuff. Because police officers are just people.
Yeah.
They have family problems, financial problems. They have bad days,
But they have a lot of unique problems too.
They have unique problems. So we have to recognize that officers have normal life problems and those unique problems. And if you take a glass and you put a bunch of rocks in that glass, you can't put a lot of water in there. And if you put too many rocks in there, there's not enough room for any water to go in there. And then if the water comes out, then that's when we have problems.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to support our police officers and create an environment that they feel welcome at and supported at. And it's always a task. I mean, it's work.
Sure.
And sometimes it's difficult for folks to say, I have a problem and they need some help. So we try to work to that.
Wow, we are down to about 2 minutes. I haven't even covered half of this stuff. Let me just talk real quickly here about, how have you seen things change, Chief, in the 7.5 years that you've been here?
Well, I tell you that the community is facing more and more mental health issues within the community. I half-heartedly will say that if we could solve the mental health issues and the drug issues in our community, we'd solve a lot of other problems as well. We're also facing issues with the drug addiction and overdose deaths we talked about earlier with fentanyl in the community.
Yes.
And then homelessness being on the rise, as we've touched on. Those are impacting many areas of our community, and we have to work to solve those problems.
Sure. The challenges that you as a chief face, are they different than what the department faces as a whole, or are they pretty much the same?
They're pretty much the same. It's my job to really talk about what the department's doing, to provide strategic direction on where we go, to be aware of the needs of the department, what is it that the community needs, and be proactive in trying to address issues that may be emerging within our community, and then provide leadership guidance. And sometimes it's just sitting down and having a conversation with a police officer or an employee and saying, hey, are you okay? Sometimes it's being, hey, we're going to go and we're going to take this hill because we have to go take this hill. But it's really dependent on what is going on in any particular day. And just being really the most important piece for me is to be as supportive as I can for our police officers, because I don't need a police officer to be here for just 3 years or 5 years. I need them to be here for 25 years.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I don't have time to get into my other questions. But I think we really touched on the main ones. And I know we spent a fair amount of time talking about Lando, but that was important, I think, too. So if people want to sign up for these, for one or more of these newsletters, how would they go about doing
Well,
that?
they go to our website
Okay.
and go into our team policing page.
Okay,
and there's
team
a link
policing.
there
Okay.
for them to find out who their district officers are. They can also get their district officers' phone numbers. There'll be a picture of them on there, and they can sign up for their newsletters for their particular areas.
Okay, wonderful. I think that's it. Thank you so much for being here and for the service that you guys do.
Well, thank you for having us.
I know people, they say thank you for your service all the time, but I think it's really important that we tell officers that, not just military.
Thank you.
So thank you for what you do. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.